Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. We'll take a look at the dollar, yields, precious metals, and the commodities and ETFs that I follow. And I'm going to give you my financial opinions. So let's dive right in. Let's take a look. And if you guys need any help with anything that's commodity related or overall market related, definitely check out finding-value.com. Use the word discount in the coupon code. So let's dive in. Let's take a look and see what's going on today. So what it looks like to me is we've got some weakness that could potentially be coming to the dollar. And that's also interrelated or interconnected with the yields. So we've got a bearish engulfing here that generally ends up moving and rotating lower. And we are seeing weakness in the 10-year yield. They are interconnected. The dollar or whatever currency it is, if yields are stronger than other monetary conditions of other currencies, generally that manifests itself with this either going up or down. So we're seeing strong yields heading lower in a lot of, we'll just say across the board in yields. I've had this written, basically in here the entire time I've done this. I said we could see a shoulder, head, shoulder. This is the debt ceiling bringing this back up, and we can see that we're getting strong selling pressure. What that is signaling, if this is what I think it might be, is that we could see a strong amount of selling pressure that brings this lower back to this level down here. And that is with fear in the market. Fear in the market and the lowering of this interest rate, which will be basically the curve's inverted right now. It's going to uninvert and come back lower, I think will be strong for gold. That is a trait that gold likes. That's the TYX-TNX ratio. And I'll show you what that looks like next. So when we look at the 10-year yield, that is falling down 2.84%. The 2-year was down 3.3%, and TYX is down 1.61%. So the yield curve's uninverting, and it's coming back lower. Is this going to be a short-term pullback? Is it something that's got more legs to it where we could see yields fall a lot more? It's all possible there. The tough part here is on the short end of the curve, this looks to me like a head and shoulders, and that we could come back to a lower level down here in the short term. That is basically saying that there's going to be weakness in the stock market and weakness in the markets in general. It's going to be weakness in commodity markets too if it were to do that. Now, the TYX, if you look, we've broken to the upside here. So is this going to be a return move where we go higher? And then the short end just gets flipped around all over the place. That is something that no one knows, because we've broken to the upside here on the 30-year, but we're pulling back in the short term. So in the short term, we've got the long end of the curve's broken to the upside and could be doing a retest move. The short end of the curve has been really moving higher, but looks like it's ready to reverse lower. In the medium term, where's this going to go? And I, in all honesty, guys, I'm not 100% sure, because we've got mixed signals on different time frames. And that's what makes investing very difficult during certain time periods. The TYX-TNX ratio, it is coming back up. And I think if this were to come back up, it would signal that there's weakness in the market. At least that's what the market thinks. Gold is highly correlated to this. And we could see gold and silver mining companies start to outperform here. If that market condition exists, we could also go back and forth here, grinding along the bottom if something in the overall market overpowers it. So I'm not in the camp that this is just clear as day. I think there's a lot of fog that we're trying to see through here. And some of the leading indicators are quite foggy. Would it be safer to assume that the market is going to pull back? Not necessarily. A lot of opportunity can be lost if someone were to take that stance as well. And then we've got bonds. Bonds were higher today, up 1%, and there's that bullish engulfing we had on Friday, and that's why I said, hey, we're probably going to bounce higher here. But we are underneath this resistance level. So again, we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. Hopefully a direction is a lot more clear than the short term, because this could easily come all the way up, hit the resistance, and then fall back down. And that's bond prices. So gold, since we had a uninverted yield curve and the curve was falling, gold likes that. It's a tailwind. So gold's up today, and it looks like it's ready to go higher, just like the yields in the short term look like they could go lower. And that's right above support. That looks good to rocket. Silver, basically flat, but that still looks good because you've got a larger buying candlestick pressure here and small pullback that generally works its way higher, especially if you see sustained lower yields. Platinum down a little bit, just grinding sideways, and this could go either direction with platinum. It's obviously identifies as a precious metal, but it also has history and roots with inflation. And generally, when the curve uninverts, that's not rooted in inflation, at least not in the short term. XAU to gold ratio, that is lower. XAU, gold, silver mining companies, are underperforming gold itself. But I do think this could change on a dime, especially if gold were to take off. But right now, it is exhibiting weakness, and we are still underneath that resistance downtrend line. CRB index definitely selling off. It looks like we could see lower prices. So the market, if I were to look at this and start looking at the size of these candlesticks, it does look like the commodity index could go lower. It looks like oil could go lower, and a lot of different commodities, given where the yields are heading. And I think gold will be resilient. CRB to S&P 500, you can see we're breaking to the downside here, so we're getting more selling pressure, and we could head lower back to a level that is down at 0.786 or somewhere in between. So we're seeing a little bit more weakness in the CRB index. GDX down 0.7%, and it's not really massively lower. We'll see where gold goes. There it is. We're still within the pattern. GDX slightly lower, or slightly higher, 0.28%. But that still, to me, looks like we could head lower in the short term. This looks kind of like a continuation pattern to some degree. We've got SILJ down slightly. It's at support going across, so we'll see what happens there. There it is on a longer term. We're definitely back within the pattern, and we could go lower. Definitely. Crude oil getting smacked, down 4%, and it is a bearish engulfing. So we'll see if this heads lower. That's generally an indication that we could head lower. It gapped up in the morning and sold off throughout the day. What that looks like on a 5-day candlestick is basically you came up here and broke to the downside, and we have momentum heading to the downside. That's a short-term chart there. So momentum's to the downside, and we could see further selling pressure of this heading lower after seeing that. Natural gas, I think this is still basing out. We're down 4.3%, and we're trying to put in some sort of base here. It's going to take some time. XOP, yeah, you know me. It's down today, down about 2%. We do have a wick at the bottom there. At least some buying pressure came in towards the end of the day. There's that buying pressure coming in towards the end of the day there. But again, we'll see where oil goes, and maybe there's deeper fears in this market about debt ceiling and whatever else is out there. But we're still within the pattern for XOP. OIH also coming back, doing a return move. Is this a return move? Will it hold? Again, we'll see and find out. Depends what oil does and natural gas does. Sprout Physical Uranium Trust, we are still below that resistance trend line right here, but it doesn't look too bad. It looks like we're going to try to make a run for it at least. We'll see what happens. URNM down 3%. We do have a little wick at the bottom, so there is some buying pressure that came in towards the end of the day. Again, I got to see some buying pressure here, guys. This is going back and forth. This is some good action between the buyers and sellers. URNJ also selling off. I'd like to see a bigger wick at the bottom here, if to be a little bit more confident that we get a bounce. But right now, it's finished quite strong to the downside. A little bit more selling pressure there. TAN basically sideways. This thing is just squeezing up. We've got COPX, which is down today, and I still think with this momentum, we still could go lower in COPX. Lithium still within the pattern, still moving sideways. Same with REMX, still within the pattern, still moving kind of sideways in that pattern. The S&P 500 looks like we're up against resistance. We'll see if that resistance holds and if we head back down. This is a rising wedge, and we could see this really get going if the selling pressure kicks in. NASDAQ barely up today. Momentum is heading back down. That's why it's a red candlestick, but it has broken this resistance line to the upside. Emerging markets down. Again, this is more of a commodity type play, and we are heading lower. And this could head a little bit lower in the short term. XHB, the housing market. Again, we've got strong selling pressure here, not much buying pressure, so I do think this could head lower. It's kind of like a flag pattern that's developing. So short-term lower. MOO, I've talked about MOO. I think we're going back to like low 70s in this. Down here is where I think we'll eventually end up. And it is heading lower for that. Copper slightly lower, down 0.3%, but that still doesn't look too bad. It actually looks like it might go up in the short term. We'll see if we can get back to this resistance line and where we go from there. And I'm basing that off the buying pressure and selling pressure of these candlesticks right there. But it's a battle. It's been battling back and forth. Iron ore down 5.6% or so, but we're still above support levels all through here. So if we were to take a big picture view, you've got support coming through here and support coming through there, right in the general vicinity of where we're at. Nickel slightly lower. You can see it coming down here. If I were to do kind of a longer term trend line through here, kind of at this support area right where it's at. Aluminum down 0.82%. Still in this downtrend, but it doesn't look horrible. We've got a wick at the bottom. Again, we could see it try to bounce here in the short term, but we're up against resistance. Baltic Dry Index lower. Basically, the whole commodity sector's selling off, and so is Baltic Dry Index. But again, I think this will eventually work its way higher after it does this return move. It's broken out of the falling wedge pattern. There's your breakout, a return move, and then it generally works its way on up. Newcastle coal futures still basing out. We might have a little bit lower to go, maybe 110, 115, somewhere in that range to get down there. And that's still actually quite a bit of ways from 140. Ethereum higher, and it looks like it could go higher still. And then we've got Bitcoin that's also higher, and it looks like it could still go higher with that candlestick, big candlestick, the pullback, and that generally works its way on up, given the way that those candlesticks look like in the short term. And it's got to break through this resistance line through here. That's what it's going to try to break through, and we'll see if we can break through it. But that's the overall markets today, guys. Things look pretty weak, especially in oil, especially in oil. And looking at precious metals, gold looks the best. With the lowering of these interest rates, if they continue lower, I think that's going to be a headwind for a lot of commodities. It means that the market is potentially weakening, and we could see a weaker market out there for commodities. But that's what I've got for today, guys. If you guys enjoy it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you'd like to join our community where we look at all this stuff. We do have a platinum question and answer session on Sunday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Definitely join me there. Love to have you be part of the community. And that's what I've got for today, guys. So we'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.